and the Muriel Whiteside Charitable Trust.
I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Tough times on the Iron Range with thousands impacted by mining layoffs. Tonight we'll talk about the effort to recharge the range with the IRRRB commissioner.
More than 100 Northwestern Wisconsinites head to Madison next week for the annual Superior Days lobbying trip. We'll talk with some of the delegates.
And we'll have the week's business headlines and bring you a news file story from 25 years ago.
It's all coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Denny, winter's not quite ready to release its grip on us yet.
I think we still have a couple of days deep below zero, but then the warm-up is in sight.
The warm-up is in sight. We've got some hot topics tonight, so let's get started.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Welcome, everyone. It's been a difficult past year on the Iron Range. The downturn in the mining economy has led to thousands of layoffs of mining employees and at businesses that support the mines. The Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board is working to create economic stability and even grow the northern Minnesota economy. They've begun a trio of forums designed to recharge the range economy, looking for ideas from range leaders. And so joining us now to talk about the effort is Mark Phillips, the Commissioner of the IRRRB. Commissioner, thank you very much for being here. Tell us, if you can, how does Recharge the Range, how can that program or that project really get the range going again?
Well, there have been a series of regional planning efforts that have gone on since really the mid-'80s, because strategies get stale after a while. So we've been about every 5 years or so the region has done a planning effort. So we haven't had one for a while, so we thought that we'd re-energize some of our efforts through a regional planning effort.
So are you going out then talking to business owners and others across the range who can lend a helping hand?
Well, what we've done is we actually invited about 120 business people to Chisholm on February 1st. We had our first event, and we had 120 business leaders from different cross-sections of business. So we had mining people and forest products people, manufacturers, even people from local agriculture.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do another event at the end of February, February 29th, with regional community leaders, so elected officials and school officials and things like that.
Are business owners worried?
Well, very much. In fact, one of the segments we had, a cross-segment, was vendors. And for every individual that works in the mines, you probably have two people that work in the supplying and supporting the mines. So when we have a couple thousand miners off, it's very likely you could have another couple thousand or more other people affected. So they're very concerned, but we're optimistic that the industry is reacting right now to this situation. So we have, illegal steel dumping has been the biggest effect because steel has been consumed at record rates in the United States. They made 17 million cars last year. And the problem we're having is steel is not being produced by the mills in the lower Great Lakes. And that's the mines in Michigan and Minnesota supply those mills. So that's the concerns we have right now. We think in the short term, if that problem could be solved, that we'd see some of these mines come back. Now we have a long-term issue, which is the blast furnaces are going away, and we need to move to more value-added products.
Commissioner, you've been involved in the economic development on the Iron Range for a lot of years. In fact, we were talking before the show started that you were at the IRRRB in the 80s during the major downturn. The conversations that you're having today in terms of recharging the range, are they different from the conversations that you were having now, or has it pretty much stayed the same?
You know, they're they're the same in some ways and they're different in some ways. So, you know, we did a lot of diversification in the 80s. Unfortunately, a lot of the diversification ran into the same problems the steel industry had. So we had 3 major paper machines went in, a lot of building material plants. Potlatch built a couple of board plants, and Louisiana Pacific built their siding plant. McMillan Bloedel built a big plant down in Deerwood. Those were all diversification efforts away from mining. Unfortunately, the paper industry, the building material industries went through deep cycles of despair as well. So we're being tied to our natural resources really hasn't been very kind to the range in many ways. So we're hoping that we can take a fresh look. Now, some of the things we're looking at is biochemicals, biofuels. They still use our natural resources, but they seem to be industries that are on the upswing rather than on the downturn, and maybe less susceptible to swings in the economy. And then we're also looking for, like we always have, you know, more manufacturing, more, you know, and now with broadband, that's kind of an equalizer sometimes for location. We've always suffered with location.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's important is usually all our downturns in the steel industries are part of a national downturn in the economy. This is the first time I can remember where the steel industry is really down and the national economy is doing actually fairly well. So we think that might give us some opportunities to attract some other industries who are maybe growing.
Industries, of course, always look for workforce. A lot of folks who are out of work right now looking for other opportunities. Do they have the skills currently to draw in some of those other kinds of businesses that you've talked about, or are you working with higher education to make sure that you have that 21st century workforce in place?
Well, and the IRRRB really, in my absence, got into the workforce development business. We've started Iron Range Engineering up at Mesabi College, and we've started other curriculum in the healthcare area in Hibbing, and we're working on a curriculum over in Itasca in Grand Rapids that would fit into our biochemical thing. So you're absolutely right. That's a critical component. The other thing is, you know, there was predicted a big change in the workforce in the mines. So we are seeing already that there's a component of the mining industry that has already attracted the 25 to 35-year-olds. So we have kind of the 50-something and then the younger. So we've already seen the younger workforce move in, so we want to make sure that we don't lose them and they go somewhere else.
Brings the question, how do you convince young people to stay on the range, telling them there's a future on the range, aside from mining?
Well, I think that they figure that out because, like I said, we have attracted these people back here. It's surprisingly, because my instinct was that our population is aging and aging. That's really not true. I think, I hope I get the number correct. So in the last, I think, 10 years, we've actually increased our population of this 25 to 35 by like 17%. So, and some of it is the changeover in the mining business, but again, the broadband and the internet has really leveled the playing field. You can start businesses from different kinds of locations now and things. So,
You talked a little bit about how technology is getting away from the range a little bit in terms of mining with the blast furnaces. And IRRRB is really designed to diversify. Do you also get involved in trying to help the mining companies make those investments that they need to make to be competitive?
The IRRRB has helped some of the newer technology businesses, the Mesabi Nuggets, the Magnetations, where their Magnetation was the one that was going into some of the lean ore supplies and using technology to extract the iron units. And Mesabi Nuggets was making a higher iron content product that could go into electric arc furnaces. So we've been on the front end of that, but I think that needs to be accelerated. So the long-term issue is making products that can go into the electric arc furnace. When we were here in the 80s, the first electric arc furnaces were going in. Now 30 years later, they're about 60% of the steelmaking capacity in the US. And they primarily use scrap, but they also need high-quality iron units to make higher quality steel. So it's a combination. So we think direct reduced iron or other kinds of value-added products coming out of northern Minnesota could get a good reception somewhere in the Great Lakes.
Other than mining, why should potential industries settle on northeastern Minnesota? What is there to offer there?
Well, I think, the workforce is one. We have excellent schools. If you look at the, my wife was in school administration, so I lived and breathed, test scores and things like that. And I think if you really did your research, you'd find it's an excellent place to raise a family, to have children get educated. We have a really unusual concentration of higher education. We don't have a lot of four-year schools that we do in Duluth, but I mean on the Iron Range, but we have a lot of two-year schools, vocational programs and things like that. So it is a great place to I chose to raise my family there for those reasons. So
now you've had one of the Recharge the Range meetings so far, 2 more coming up.
Yes.
Are there opportunities for members of the public to get involved?
Well, I would say that would probably more at the third one. We're going to have public officials at the second one. So the first 2 are going to be more or less by invitation only. And we think that once we get our strategies lined up and the time frames and task forces and things like that, then we're probably going to have an event maybe in the June time frame that would be much more public.
Very good. So, IRRRB Commissioner Mark Phillips. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you
All
for
the best.
having me.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
A place to duck out of a dangerous storm. It's what supporters say is needed on the North Shore between Duluth and Knife River.
If a storm hits, if you've got 100 boats out on the water, they've got to get within that break wall for protection while you're retrieving the boats. You don't just do it in a half hour. It takes 3-4 hours to get 100 boats out of the water.
They want a boat launch safe harbor. It's a project that has hit some rough water itself from North Shore residents and environmentalists. And statistics present a case of their own as well. In the last 3 years, the Coast Guard has been called to assist boaters in that area 43 times. That's 19% of its total assists. Of the 43, 29 were minor assists involving a stranded boat, while 11 were urgent, and 3 search and rescues, or SARS, required medical transportation.
That's very few SAR for that area compared to what we do over Superior Entry, around Barker's Island net.
Coast Guard officials estimate that rough weather was a factor in about 1/4 of their calls to assist boaters. And whether or not these statistics help or hurt the prospects for a safe harbor, supporters looking for state aid have just 5 months to convince legislators that the project holds water. For Evening Edition, Ryan Davenport, KDLH News.
For 30 years, community leaders from northwestern Wisconsin have been traveling to Madison to lobby state legislators on issues important to the Superior area. Next week, delegates will head back down to the state capitol for the 31st annual Superior Days event. They'll focus on a few core issues that will benefit the region, and here to tell us more is James Anderson, Superior Days coordinator and an economic development educator with UW Extension in Douglas County. Bruce Thompson is with NBC Bank and is president of Better City Superior, and Andy Lisak is the administrator of Douglas County. And welcome. Thanks to all of you for being here.
Thank you.
Andy, we'll start with you way down there.
Okay.
You've been doing this for quite a while. What are those main messages that you see carrying down to the Capitol this time?
The main message is always to let people in Madison know that we exist, and let them know about northern Wisconsin, in particular Douglas County and Superior, about the issues that we face, which oftentimes are different issues than are faced by those in southern Wisconsin. As we go down this year, we're really keeping that focus of economic development, and bringing citizen lobbyists down to Madison to advocate on 4 issues that are related to economic development.
Mm-hmm. Does this part of the state have a hard time catching the attention of Madison?
I think so. We have obviously an assembly person and a senator that covered the area. Senator has a very large region, Senator Bewley. We are a 5.5 hour drive to Madison. So there's a disconnect, and we share no common media market, so it's very difficult to communicate the unique needs and opportunities for northwestern Wisconsin.
Bruce, Better City Superior recently conducted a survey. You got more than 1,000 responses back. What did you learn?
Well, we were very impressed with the response for one thing, and the main things we learned were that the citizens are really ready for a strategic initiative to drive Superior to some relevant destination. And really, another thing that was reinforced by over 2/3 margin was the fact that it really needs to come from the citizens and the business community, the direction that we want our political leaders to take to make us relevant for the future.
Almost sounds like there needs to be a partnership.
It very much is a partnership, and we were established 2.5 years ago to engage the business community and use national consultants that have really redefined communities in other parts of the country. And so we've been running stealth for 2.5 years, doing our homework, building data, analyzing our community, what's working in other communities, seeing what is possible, what could happen if we do this successfully. And ultimately, after that research was done, we decided to finally go public with it and ask the citizens what they think. We did that in 2 phases. We did it with 3 separate focus groups, and then we did it with the survey, which had a remarkable response.
And how does this tie into Superior Days in terms of what message you are planning to take down to Madison?
Well, one of the key elements of our success is to have exposition district legislation, which has been utilized in Wisconsin in large markets. We think that tool, if it is recrafted for a small market like ours, could bring Superior some of the same tools that are being very successful in driving Duluth's economy. And we have to step up our game and be complementary to Duluth and make this region stronger.
James, I want to get this right. A $125 million large-scale redevelopment is proposed. What does this entail? Sounds like grandiose plans.
I think they're fantastic plans. They've really come up with a great concept of a convention-style hotel with a water park, something that's very unique to this region, Wisconsin Dells style destination attraction, complemented with an indoor field house, business park, and potential other developments within there. And that public-private partnership. And what are you estimating, Bruce? 400,000 visitors?
Yeah, we think we can pull or grow 400,000 visitors to the marketplace.
What would make this project doable?
Well, they all of the pieces have to work together, because in and of themselves they would not work. To try and do them one at a time, they work in synergy together. So to create the really cool downtown factor that the millennials and the workforce in the future is looking at, the urban density, the retail, the activity, that type of a scenario, which we do have the opportunity to build because our downtown is kind of laid out right to have this bolted to it now. And so we really think that that's the answer, is to make sure that all the components can come together and work together.
Andy, how critical is that exposition district to plans like this coming together for Superior?
It's key when Bruce and his team, and I want to really compliment Bruce for the work that he and NBC, National Bank of Commerce, have done on moving this forward. I'm in the public sector, but it really takes the private sector driving this bus. The public sector is there to help, but having people from the private sector step forward, develop plans, and show the pro formas indicating what it's going to take to make this work. We've seen success by looking to Duluth and what's been done here with the exposition. Well, it's really a food and beverage tax and a focus on developing recreational opportunities for people and entertainment opportunities. So from the community and from Douglas County's perspective, you know, it's going to take that energy. It's going to take people like Bruce and other people that have that vision, have that passion, looking almost back to the book, The Will and the Way, which talked about all the great stuff that has happened in the Northland and how we do it. It was accomplished because we got behind it, we had that focus, and we didn't take no for an answer.
Overall, what's the state of Superior's economy?
It's actually pretty well. I think we weathered, as we'd like to report, we weathered the recession of 2008 much better than the nation and the state. Our unemployment rate is at a low level, historically low, the mayor would say, and it's been great. We've had a renaissance of small manufacturing businesses. We've had small manufacturing businesses expand within the city, and now we're really looking at housing development. How do we capture all the benefits?
Is
of
it
economic
different
development?
in greater Douglas County?
Yeah, I think you're going to see the economic development really happening where the infrastructure is,
Sure.
and that'll be within the city of Superior and some of the towns that surround the city. I think when we look at rural Douglas County, we're looking at a little bit more tourism, we're looking at some agriculture, but I think we really see the opportunity and the potential for housing development.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of infrastructure, I understand that transportation funding is another item that's high on the agenda as you go down and talk to lawmakers.
It is. I think 2015 was the first time the Superior Days delegation brought a local option road tax. And it was really Andy's genesis. I think he's really taken ownership of creating and crafting this issue and helping to communicate the need for it to our legislature. He recently testified for AB 210, but what it does is it allows communities to have a referendum election on a 0.5% additional sales tax that would generate a new revenue stream for roads. The last couple of bills that have been drafted have a formula that would break that out then to the counties, cities, villages, and towns for road rebuilding and road maintenance. Bayfield County is also a supporter of this, and when we look at the work that Bayfield and Douglas County are doing with existing revenue streams, they're on about, what, a 30-year rebuild, Andy, for roads?
Closer to a 50-year rebuild.
And the goal is around 20, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes new taxes. Andy, give us the elevator speech.
You're absolutely right. We have a choice. If we need to address the $100 million needs just for the county roads, we could levy, we could bond, and then we could levy, and that goes on people's property taxes. We think a more effective way of spreading that burden among everyone, all the users of county roads, people that live within the county, but also people that are tourists and visitors, is by applying it as a sales tax. And Wisconsin's sales tax currently in Douglas County, we're approximately 2.5% below the sales tax rate within the city of Duluth. So we think there's some room to move without causing us to become uncompetitive, if you will, when it comes to commerce. But it's always that, as a government entity, you always balance that. What we need to do, and we're sensitive to the burden that it puts on the residents of the county. We are sensitive to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is already the 31st annual Superior Days. Hard to believe that. Are you going down this year asking for help financially, or what are you asking for?
Well, this isn't the budget here.
Right, it is not.
We had a pretty hotly contested budget that passed this past summer. So we're going down asking for support for exposition districts to help Bruce's project. We're going to go down and carry the message that we're still really interested in local option road tax. Unfortunately, AB 210 was buried in the assembly on Thursday, so it essentially died in this session. But we'll thank the people that crafted that legislation, as well as the co-sponsors. But then we're also going to be just asking for awareness and support of higher education for our third issue.
Overall, have you found lawmakers over the years really listening?
Yeah, I have. I think we have a good message if we're focused. We find lawmakers that are outside of our district. Our delegation has been fantastic, of course, but we're finding other lawmakers where we have some commonality, and it's been really productive. I mean, AB 210 is an example of that. That was crafted by a couple of lawmakers that listened to us during Superior Days. So we're developing those relationships. And I think one of the things is we're not asking for funding, we're asking for the tools. Give us the tools and we'll do the work.
Mm-hmm. Is there excitement amongst those of you who are going down there?
Oh, absolutely. We had our training session last Thursday. Bruce was there. I was there, had a chance to talk to a lot of our delegates. They had a chance to meet their lobby teams, hear presentations on our issues, and they were starting to craft the messages that they wanted to communicate to lawmakers. We're ready to hit the ground running in Madison this week.
All right. On that note, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and talking about it. We appreciate it. Good luck.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's time now for a look at the week's economic stories from the folks at Business North. Some good news emerged this week for the regional forest products industry. The International Trade Commission voted to impose duties on paper imports from China, Indonesia, Brazil, Portugal, and Australia. Manufacturers in those countries engage in unfair trade practices that are damaging the American paper industry. That according to U.S. Senators Amy Klobuchar and Al Franken, who asked for the trade sanctions. Verso Papers, which is going through bankruptcy proceedings, is among domestic paper makers who've raised concerns about the flood of imports.
While the sanctions will help paper manufacturers, other segments of the forest products industry continue to struggle in the face of low product demand. Louisiana Pacific Corporation, which manufactures siding in two harbors, Hayward and Tomahawk, lost $86 million last year. That came on top of a $73 million loss in 2014. A slow recovery in new home construction is contributing to continued sluggishness at wood product suppliers, although a turnaround might be near. Housing starts increased by 11% last year, and the rebound is expected to continue.
Cirrus Aircraft reported another strong year of sales, shipping more than 300 Duluth-made general aviation planes during 2015. The company's signature SR-22 maintained its position as the best-selling propeller plane in its segment for the 13th consecutive year. Coming months could offer even more opportunity. Initial customer deliveries are expected to occur later in 2016 of the Cirrus Vision Jet. With over 550 orders, FAA certification is anticipated by mid-year. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Do you have a comment about tonight's show? Then dial 218-788-2849 and leave a message, or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org, and visit the WDSE website for the latest updates on your favorite programs, news about the station, and more. And Danny, another cold night or two, and the warm-up is coming.
Another extra blanket tonight wouldn't hurt.
That's right. And a nice warm holiday with Valentine's Day this weekend.
Oh, that's this weekend.
Don't forget to get your sweetie something.
Uh-huh.
All right, cheapskate. For Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend, everyone.